All right, here we go. Welcome back to Three Questions. I'm here today with, first off, I'm in a different space. I'm trying a whole lot of things right now. I haven't really figured it out or hammered it down yet, but it's coming. Anyway, we're here today with an actual special guest, a person I've known for a while now. I think it's close to, what's like 8 years, I think it is, something like that.
Dang.
Yeah, it's been a while. So, I'm actually kind of looking forward to this conversation. So, we have with us today Miss Shannon Crystal. How you doing?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm all right. Can't complain. How was your day?
It's Sunday. That's like one of my favorite days of the week.
Yeah, you did say that you came from service, right?
Yeah, I came from church.
How was it?
Church is always awesome. Like, I feel like my pastor is just so connected to God. Like, his ear is to God's mouth, literally all the time. So it's never a time that I go there and don't get what I need.
That's dope.
So, yeah.
That's good.
Worship with us at the tab, y'all.
That's dope.
8334 Liberty Road.
Hey, you see that plug?
Because
there it is.
Because it's top tier. It's definitely top tier.
All right. Okay, I'll take your word for it. I haven't been there, so I'll take your word for it.
You need to come. When I tell you that your life will definitely be changed. I feel like when I went there initially, I was looking for something. And when I grounded there, I found way more. I feel like what I was looking for found me. And my life has never been the same. I've been there for a few years now. My life has not been the same. You can tell I'm not even the same person that you knew.
I would agree. So some of the questions that I have is probably going to be somewhat modified to kind of fit the current version. I mean, but I don't think it wasn't too out the ordinary. Well, okay, fair enough. My show is not controversial anyway. So the people who've been watching, I'm not trying to get no gotcha moments, nothing like that. That's just not my MO. But
gotcha moments.
Right.
Gotcha.
Try to get a viral thing going. But the first question, which is the first question I ask every guest, is who is Shannon Crystal? Who are you? What do you do? What are some of the things that keep you grounded, which you kind of touched on a bit. Some of the things, who are you?
Okay. I'm going to first say Shannon Crystal is a church girl. Like, I feel like it took me a long time to embrace that, even though that was my roots. I've been raised in the church. I'm a church girl, y'all. I am a mother, okay? I have a boy and a girl. I am a songstress, a writer. I even do praise and worship at church. I'm a friend. I love to say I'm a friend, mostly a friend of God. I feel like a friend of God can be a good friend to anyone who they are assigned to. I live, breathe music. Music is definitely my thing. I am I won't say a media personnel anymore, but I do dip and dab into media. Like, I love media. I'm always love media. That's how we met.
Yeah.
I'm always love media. I didn't even know I had passion for media, but definitely do. I'm an artiste. I started painting.
Did you know?
I did. I started painting.
There's different types of painting. Like,
so not
even like
pouring
one of these one of one of those. Like, it's different types. Like, what kind of painting do you do?
I'm still like finding my niche.
Oh, okay, all right.
Because I feel like I just go with the flow. It's always like some type of flower or like the moon or something nature drawn. Sometimes it'd be a bunch of hearts because I can't draw. Okay.
You can?
I can't.
Okay.
I can't draw, so I probably wouldn't be able to execute that like that. I don't know how it would come out.
Can they see it? Oh, yeah,
I would definitely have to like really work on it. You know what I mean? This, absolutely. I can come out with something like this. But you know how people be like just pouring different color paints and then letting them, go all around the canvas.
Yeah,
I like that type of art, abstract art.
Okay, because there is that is like a niche. Because I like when I see paintings or go to like a show where they do like a showing or whatnot. You'll see paintings with just handprints.
Yeah.
Things that since I'm not in it like that, I don't fully understand it.
You don't know how to appreciate it.
Exactly. I don't know exactly. And I don't bash that stuff just because I don't understand it. Now look at it and then you'll see the person sitting next to you like, man. And then another person from on another canvas we move to tears just by looking at it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't see it. But,
You know, I don't even know if that just comes from the space of knowing how to appreciate it as much as it comes from wherever that artist was. I feel like everything that you do has an intention. And if you are not intentional about what you pour into what you do, then it won't be felt. Energy is fluid. I've been saying that for years. I say that all the time. Energy is fluid. So whatever is in that piece, you'll feel it. And if somebody literally just was like, I want to make something, stick their hand in some paint and just put it up there, like, yeah, that's art. It didn't really come from anywhere. So you might not feel anything. But then when you get to that next piece that might have been painted with their fingers, but it may actually have their tears in it. It could be something, it could have came from like a space of sorrow. It could have came from a place of joy. But wherever it came from and it being intense, you're going to feel it. No matter what the painting looks like, you're going to feel
I
it.
will say that wasn't something that I would have imagined you getting into, painting.
Me either. I did it. It was a therapy for me. And granted, I don't do it all the time. I actually haven't done it in quite some time, but I don't ever overlook the fact that I got into it. And it was very therapeutic. It is very therapeutic. So every now and then I might grab a canvas or two and do some art.
Okay. Is there anything new I need to know about? 'Cause, like I said, I'm now really curious. Like, so it's been a minute since I've actually seen you in person. We kind of, we interact online and stuff like that. But what's new? Like, you at one point was living in a different state, and then you came back. Like, why'd you leave and then come back? What was that?
I don't know if I can.
You don't have to get like deep into it. You can kind of.
I honestly don't know if I even have the explanation for that. I just feel like I want to be as obedient as I can. And see, when I left, okay, thank you, God. When I left, there was a totally different version of me that left here. I was reading tarot. I was doing divination work, like new age, y'all. I never really, came from under God's thumb. I never stopped acknowledging God in all my ways, but I did not have an understanding of exactly how he looked at the things that I was doing when it came to tarot. I had my business Beneath the Surface Co. And everything was basically intention drawn. You know what I mean? Like, I would make the products, and granted, I would pray, I would worship over my soaps. I still do pray and worship over my products, but I made intention sprays, intention oils, and that stuff is a part of witchcraft. I had no idea because I wasn't in my word. So I was still praying to God, but I didn't really have a full understanding of what I had my hands in, what I had come into covenant with. And when I was in Georgia, I learned a lot of things about that. I learned how to create a space, how to really protect the space in that facet, like in that arena. And then when I came back here, I didn't plan to move back here. I came back here to visit. On the day, I want to say the day before I was supposed to leave to go back home to Georgia, I found out that my grandmother was about to die. They told us that she had 2 weeks max left. And I was like, I'm not leaving here. And she passed away while I'm gone. So I didn't leave. And I had drove down here at that point. I didn't leave. I instead went to see her every day. Me and my cousins, we sat with her every single day up until the day that she died. Literally the day that she died, we were there. We weren't there when she died. She waited for all of us to come and see her and leave. And we would just sit and just chill. And I don't think that I had felt that feeling of family in so long. But the thing about it is that while I was in Georgia for that year and some change, I stopped reading tarot. I had become much closer to God, not as close as I am now, but I had really stepped into his presence to be able to hear from the Holy Spirit and be obedient. I feel like I learned the importance of my obedience. So when it came down to hearing God say, put those cards down, and I'd be like, okay, God, give me another week, right? Because delayed obedience is still disobedience. And I would be like, give me another week because I had Patreon. And that was how I was paying my bills. Like, I wasn't working anywhere when I was living in Georgia. I was working my business and it was paying everything pretty much. But then I got a phone call maybe like a couple days after I told God, give me another week because I had a Patreon, a live coming up that I had planned. And I got a phone call I don't know what you did. This is my friend on the other end. And she's like, I don't know what you've done, But God said, put those cards down and repent now. And the funny part about it is I literally had those cards in my hand at the
When she said
time.
it?
And while I wasn't doing a reading, I had the cards in my hand when she said it. When she called me and she said it, I had a deck of cards in my hand. And I don't know if I was putting them away or like what I was doing with them. So I put them away and I repented, but after time, I put the cards down. I put everything down. When she said that, I was like, oh, snap. I felt like it was just because I didn't stop when Holy Spirit told me this. When Holy Spirit told me to stop, I was like, give me another week, God. Like, I was like, no, I said put them down now. And I feel like everything is so sensitive. It's important. Everything is important. Timing is important. Like the enemy could have been right there at my door. Like something major could have been about to happen. And God was like, no, I need you to let go of what you used to come in covenant with this thing now so that I can properly intervene and keep you from that danger.
Is that pretty much what drew you back up here?
What drew me honestly was just
I mean, yes,
that my grandmother passed. When my grandmother passed away, it was the feeling of having been so far from family. Granted, I had family in Georgia, but I grew up very close niched with my cousins, and there was a different feeling. Like I felt like something was missing once I put those cards down, and I did that in Georgia.
Okay.
I was still in Georgia when I put those cards down. I was still in Georgia when I stopped working with everything that had to do with the business for that moment. When I came to visit, I was looking for something. I was searching for something. I felt empty. And I was just like, I have no peace with who I am. I love myself, but I don't love myself. I can't sit in a room and be content just by myself, have anything to do. You know what I mean? So my decision to stay was based upon how far I was from the family that knew me well enough to see me falling apart, even though I didn't look like I was falling apart. And there's only a few of them, but when I came back here in that space where we had to mourn our grandmother together, and let me say grieve, because I don't even feel like we mourned in a heavy way, but grieve really, we were there for one another. And being far from that was like, oh no, I need to be home. I literally came to visit and never went back. I didn't go pick up my stuff. I mean, at some point, I don't know where it is at this point.
Yeah,
a lot of that stuff is
up
gone.
and rolled out. You know something that not I don't want to cut you off. I'm gonna let you finish, but that sometimes that just not packing, just rolling out is what's needed, especially when it comes to like a real major change, because there's parts of what you probably left that would have drew you back into what you were doing beforehand.
But you know what I did take with me? That box of cards. I brought my entire box of cards, and I don't even think it was intentional. I had so many decks of cards. When I say so many decks of cards, I didn't even realize that I was that invested in tarot. I had so many different kinds of cards. Like it was hundreds and hundreds of dollars in a box. And I got to the point where at first I thought me putting the cards down was going to be temporary. I was like, I'm going to pick them back up later. Even put on my website, readings will be put on pause until further notice. Then it got to a point where God was like, no, I am using your gifts. I read Deuteronomy. After I read Deuteronomy and Leviticus, I was like, oh God, I'm not even touching that again.
Why do you think some other people are drawn to that? To get, not just to be the person like doing the card reading, but just getting read too.
I think that we have this desire to control things. And it really is a desire to control. When you know what's coming down the line, then you kind of feel like you can control it, or you can at least be prepared for it, and you can control your response to it. When in all actuality, it takes away the authenticity, in my opinion, of how you would normally respond from a space that is present, as opposed to being like, oh yeah, I got to this before it ever got to me. You know what I mean? Oftentimes we want to know the details too, stuff that's not even our business. Thinking about the in-depth experience from reading people, the questions that they would ask, like people would really push the envelope. And I don't care who you are, if God is not letting you in a space, you can't get into it. So if you keep asking me these questions and you want me to give you details on something that God is saying no to, I can't even give you details. I'm gonna try my hardest, but it's never gonna be satisfying. And it's just a means of wanting to control. We want to know everything. We are so type A sometimes, where we got to know what God is doing instead of just doing our part. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean the need for control is a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, you want to be able to say, I did this, I'm doing this, and I made it happen all
Yeah.
on my own and stuff like that. So I
Or
understand what you're saying.
even when somebody, like people will come and get readings, like relationship readings, right? You get a relationship reading, you want to know what the other person is doing behind your back, or what kind of energy they're bringing into the relationship, or whatever the case may be. And then when something does happen, you find out, let's say if in that reading you find out that they're lying about something. They could say something as simple as, I am fine, when they're really not fine. That's a lie. It's a simple lie. But you go and get a reading and they're like, oh, they lied to you today. And you're now placing that on everything that they said to you. And you're trying to figure out where the lie is. And now you're going to them and confronting them about something that they don't even, that does not align with the actual truth.
So they're assuming.
It's a bunch of assumptions.
So what's the phrase? If you assume, you make an ass out of you and me.
Absolutely.
You know the funny thing?
But
you said that to me once. So I've never forgot when you said that. And I was like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. Well, now, what was you about to say?
Because assume is that word with the U-N-M-E.
Right. I didn't really think, I didn't put two and two together until you kind of, like, when you said it. And I was like, oh, okay. That's a good one. I'm going to add that to it. I'm going to add that to it.
Definitely, though, a means of control. Like, it sends you in all types of circles and spirals. And I know that people who still do readings today, people who are still interested in it today, they will combat me on it, and I don't care. They will feel a way about me saying it, and I don't care. Getting those tarot readings is not all factual. It is not all factual. There was many times where, and I know my gift. I am a seer. I hear straight directly from God. You know what I mean? But the enemy desires to use our gifts. So when it comes down to tarot reading, when it comes down to astrology, when it comes down to these zodiac signs and all of that different kind of stuff, I feel like it's just ways for people to try to identify themselves.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because when you read that stuff, especially with the zodiac signs, oh yeah, I'm a Capricorn.
Yeah, it'd be like, this is exactly how I am. Yeah, but all of us, we actually hold a lot of those traits. We portray a lot of those same characteristics, and we're not the same signs. And I was literally reading down to where your zodiac sign is in your house, in your second house, and what that means. Like, I was deep.
I was going to say that sounds to be like you're really invested. And that's a lot.
I was thousands of dollars invested.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't do that. I mean, I will say this because you read me once. Mm-hmm. And actually did it twice, and it was a little unsettling. But I was curious of being like, what is it about that people really, you know what I'm saying? You kind of explained it already. You want to control, but I went into it just out of curiosity because you were doing it, and you were one other person, two people that I've known, both women. Mm-hmm. That is it like a woman thing? Because I never really see dudes do it.
No, there are a lot of men that do.
The only ones I've seen has been women. And they've read the cards to me, like you and one other. Mm-hmm. And it was some weird stuff that I would look at and be like, okay, is this real? You know?
It is real.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why I felt unsettled.
It is real, but the thing about it is that it does not come in full truth. See, God does not work in confusion. So when God brings something, and there's only one true living God, there's only one truth, one I am the truth and the light. Like, there's only one God that responds by fire, mm-hmm. who's going to give it to you straight. No chaser. God cannot lie. But when you are using tools to speak in the spirit realm, it can come with some confusion. So cards mean multiple things. But you know how you got to put them with, and I'd be like, they could pull one card or whatever. Like, a card could fly out. And it's all spiritual. It's all real. But when you have to pair it with something else to understand what it's speaking to or what direction it's going into and things like that. And then you're kind of trying to figure out exactly what those cards are speaking to. Whereas when Holy Spirit speaks, Holy Spirit is very straightforward. There is no confusion. And I learned that through the difference of when God gives me a word for someone now, as opposed to like how things were then. I do think that is a struggle with identity, though. To stand on the question, I think it's a struggle with identity. We be wanting to be read to see, what do I possess? Who am I? What is my next move? Instead of, sometimes your next move is to sit down. Don't do anything. Rest, because God is at work. Like, get out of his way.
Right.
Because you didn't even do the last thing that God told you to do. And it really be us just looking for something.
Okay. I actually like that. That was a real in-depth question one of who you are and where you at currently right now. And
Right.
you kind of yeah. That was
I
pretty.
touched on everything.
You touched pretty much on everything.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even say that I will go into I'm an intercessor. I do pray at church. I'm on a praise and worship team. And I host a connect group called Moms Who Brunch.
Moms Who Brunch?
I did touch on the fact that I'm a mom. Moms Who Brunch. So yeah.
Nice. And I'm assuming that you got a lot of moms involved with that. It's food involved too. So I mean,
it is definitely food involved, but it's a good amount of moms who in the Connect group. And just to add another plug for those looking for a mom tribe, you don't have to be a member of the church. It is awesome if you decide to be a member of the church, but you can go to wearethetab.church and go to Connect groups and enter the Connect group. If you're looking for a mom tribe, just people. I think oftentimes, and I'm not going to make this long and drawn out, but we as moms don't get the chance to just let our hair down and just be free and say, we're tired. We're tired of momming. We're tired of being the adult in the room. We're tired of having to do everything. When they're sick, when they're hungry, when they need something, we always got to make it happen. And yes, dads do too, but the nurturing comes from us. And we pour out from every angle, right? And it's never allowed. We rarely get the opportunity in the space to say, I'm tired. And it be just received as you have every reason to be tired. And so that's what Moms Who Brunch is, a safe space to really share what it is that we're feeling, what we experience. Sometimes our children hurt our feelings. Like, yes, they are children, but I don't know if there is any parent who hasn't gotten into the space where your child be like, I don't love you. When I first heard my child tell me that, I took that to heart. And he didn't even know what he was saying. Like, my daughter's never told me that yet. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes as she grows older, because she's only 5. And he was about 6, maybe 7 when he said that. But it was simply because he was upset with me. But I took that to heart. And I needed someone to lean on who'd be like, he doesn't mean that. You know what I mean? And that's what Moms Who Brunch is. It's a group of women who can be like, oh, I've been through that before. And let me tell you how I handled it. I felt that same way. But once I got past that and I clung to this, when I learned to cling to this, or when I heard this in the Bible, when I read this, when I prayed about this, then I gained some type of peace. You know what I mean? That's a passive understanding. And that is the ultimate, that's an amazing part. But that's what Moms Who Brunch is about. So still a spiritual advisor, just, in a different aspect.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's who I am.
All right. So moving on to question number 2. All right. Now, you touched on a couple of things that you do already currently right now as far as the church is concerned. But when I first met you, you were doing podcasts. And at the time, I didn't know until starting to get to know you that you came from music. And what I want to know is what brought the podcast after the music? Like, why'd you start it? Why didn't you just like go full force into music and then instead of doing a podcast? Was the podcast like a way for you to promote the music at one point, or?
How I got into podcasting is a funny story, because I never intended to get into, to have my own show. That was never the intention. That was never the goal. But my sister was doing podcasting. She was on a radio show, and then she moved out of state. And she was basically saying they was looking for someone to replace her. And I was like, okay, but I like to talk. And I be having some things to say. Like, I find myself to be pretty wise. Even my name means little wise one, but we're gonna leave that there. But when I connected with this podcast, everybody on the podcast had their own section of the show. They had their own segment, right? And we never knew what my segment was going to be. And so, the show started off as Girl Talk Radio. Mm-hmm. And the name of the show that I was on was Small Talk, I want to say. Don't quote me, because I honestly don't even remember, but I think it was Small Talk Radio. And please don't be offended if it wasn't Small Talk Radio and it was wrong, and I'm wrong. Because I still love y'all. I still love y'all. But it definitely has been a minute. But I wanted Girl Talk to be my segment. It didn't fit with the way that the show went. And the person who owned, or who was like the host of that show, was like, well, we have extra days that we don't use. Maybe you can make that a segment that is a part of our show, but it's just on a different day. You know what I mean? He's like, you can use these days, and I like to stand on business. I don't like to do business. I don't want to say, well, I like to do business with integrity. That is the best way for me to say that. And I didn't know that there was a contract or, the business on the back end with this. While he was giving me these days, he couldn't give me these days. He didn't have the authority to do so.
Oh,
so while I
wow.
was celebrating and preparing for a segment for a radio show that would have been like maybe an hour long, if that, just girl talk, he was giving me days that I couldn't actually have. And we were literally preparing on the show for this to happen. I had a co-host and everything. And this was at the station where we actually met in the first place.
Yeah.
You remember how I gave you that look when you first came in?
That was not my fault.
When you first came, no, I know it wasn't, but just the way that things were happening there, I feel like I wasn't treated properly. I feel like I wasn't treated fairly, but once I found out how things were being done initially, then I understood that they thought that I was trying to get a radio show off of him. When in all actuality, it started off as a segment. I never had any plans to become a radio show host. Well, let me say to have my own radio show. It just kind of went into that. So when I found out that he couldn't give me those days, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to just start my own radio show called Girl Talk Radio. And I don't have to be a part of that show. Not saying that I had anything against him. I wasn't upset or anything, but I didn't like the fact that they felt like I was trying to do bad business. And the type of woman that I am, it was just like, oh no, I'm not going to put something forth that does not actually spring forth. So I lost my co-host at this time. And I don't think it was because of that. I don't know why she decided not to be the co-host, but she knew the real for the real. She knew how things were going, but it just wasn't what God intended for it to be. So when I got into that show, that's when I started doing the auditions. And I wanted 4 of us. At first I wanted 2, but then I was like, this looks better with 4. So I did the auditions and ended up keeping the girls who started the auditioning process. And that's how
sometimes it works out.
Talk. Yeah. And when I got in it, it was like, oh, I love this. I was already doing music, but I was used to writing and like recording songs here and there, but never dropping them. Like I got so much music, but I don't have any music out. And I did performances. My mother always set a stage for us. Like, I don't care if I wanted to do a show, she'd be like, okay, well, what's coming up? Let's do a Valentine's Day show. I could gather songs, original and covers, and we would put a whole show together. And that's how people knew that I did music. That's how I am a performer. You know what I mean? When it comes to artistry, I've written for people. I've done, music with Lil Mo. Like, she was putting together a girl group. I don't exactly know what happened with that. It kind of just like fell at the wayside, but I've done backgrounds for Lil Mo. I've done, different things. And I guess the radio show kind of built itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I just ran with it.
With the type of topics that you were having on the show, do you think you're totally away from that? Because you had some stuff that you talked about that kind of were a little wild from what I remember.
Totally away from it. I don't think I would say totally away from it. I think that I'm at a different perspective of everything, because God has something to do with everything. There's something that God has to say about everything. So I feel like, whereas I was on the controversial end of it, and to be honest, I feel like a lot of my topics came from my co-hosts, not from them, but were inspired by who I was doing that with. So it was like, let me make sure that I'm doing stuff that they're also interested in too. That they have a perspective of too.
Okay. Excuse the noise out there. They're excited.
But at this point, I feel like the perspective has shifted to, what does God have to say about this? We still go through a lot of these same things. We still go through a lot of these same situations. We still see them happening in this world. They're still an issue. But the difference is that we are in this world and not of this world. And back then, I was in this world and of this world, if that makes sense.
Kind of. That seems like it would need a little bit more of an explanation.
Yeah, because when I had interest in what the people wanted. I had interest in what the people wanted to do or wanted to see me do or what they were doing. I was drinking. I was smoking. I was worldly. And so my perspectives were worldly. My topics were worldly. And they didn't really, granted, like I put God, there was some of God in everything. that I did, but there needs to be all of God in everything that I do.
Can't be like half in, half out.
Exactly. And then I was lukewarm.
Yeah.
Then I was lukewarm. So, you know, we was cussing and stuff on the show. We was having a ball. But you notice how music was always intertwined with everything.
Yeah.
When we came back into the show, music. It was always, it's your girl Shannon Crystal and I'm on the mic. Like, we had mad fun, but it just wasn't, it was worldly. Like, that's the best way I can put it, is that it was worldly. And this season, I want to go back to it, but blend the real life experiences with what God has to say about them. I feel like we always sleep on what God got to say about it, and God has something to say about everything. So we need to have a conversation.
Okay, I dig it, and that's, I mean, so it was a genuine interest.
Absolutely.
As far as podcasting, it wasn't
eventually.
Just eventually it became that, or in the beginning it was just kind of filling in.
In the beginning, it was like, oh, that'll be a cool thing to do. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because I'm used to having dialogue like this. I'm used to having intellectual conversation. Like, I love it. I could talk, have great conversation. As long as the conversation is good topics, I can talk all day. To be honest though, I did, once it came down to me having my own show, I did decide this would be a perfect way to get my music out there.
Yeah.
Even though I hadn't recorded
I mean, you're in
everything.
control of what's being played, so you could just throw your stuff
So, you
on.
know, in the beginning, you realize how we used to start with my version of Masterpiece by Jasmine Sullivan. We used to start with the video.
Oh, yes.
Mona Lisa. And it was just a way to promote that I sing, because I really wasn't putting music out there. I mean, I wanted to, but I feel like I was told some years ago when I was pregnant with my daughter, I didn't even know that I was pregnant with her yet, and she's 5 now. And I remember that it was in, I want to say September-ish. Don't quote me. But I was told that until my perspective shifted, that God would not release what he had for me, including my music. I didn't understand why it was such a struggle to have music out, to really release music. But now that I am in this space, it's like, because none of that was ever supposed to precede me. Like, the music that I was writing then was never supposed to be a part of my reputation. It was never supposed to be part of what people know me as. They know that I sing. And so the music that I'll be making now, the music that I'll be making is this version. That's you lead into question 3. Okay.
So no, keep talking. Well, the question is, because you feel like you're going into it anyway. The question is, will you be putting out any more music, any new projects, or will you kind of not do that?
I'm absolutely putting out music.
Okay, so we established that you heard it here first, 3QS. She's gonna be putting out more music. So tell me what's you said the music from before wasn't supposed to.
I just feel like it wasn't supposed to be music that I sang.
Okay.
That I released. Like, granted, it's still songs out there that I'll probably give or sell to someone. They can do whatever they need, because songs come. They just don't need to be songs that I sing.
When you say that you sing, are you going to be, is it like a gospel music, or is it just music that doesn't?
Now it's going to be gospel.
So is it totally gospel? Because I think people think that if you don't make gospel music, or it's like one or the other. I think it's the content or the words you're using. Mm-hmm. If you're talking about, like you said, partying, smoking, drinking, and doing all kind of deviant stuff on the music over a hot beat, but you can do the same thing, but the content can be more positive. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be gospel, but gospel does have it has its place, obviously. Yeah. But well, let me stop. What do you plan to do? Is it like
I want to make worship music.
Okay.
But I do know that I'll have a few inspirational songs, because that's the line that falls under, is inspirational songs. So while it'll always be about God. But it doesn't always have to necessarily be gospel. Gotcha. If you know what I mean. Yeah. So between inspirational and gospel.
Yeah, I think some people, when they hear gospel, they automatically write it off. Mm-hmm. But you got artists like Lecrae. Yeah. You know, who, I mean, I was just listening to him earlier today, actually. And
it's so many of them. Madison Ryan Ward.
There's a lot. And I think, I don't know if you feel it, but I think there's a shift that's happening, especially when it comes to music, even when it comes to mainstream music, is a shift, because like artists like D1 or Lecrae, who they recently got mentioned in a song from Kendrick Lamar, which is the whole reason why a lot of their stuff has been popping up lately.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're getting a shift to where like music would be more balanced. I think we've had an imbalance for like 20, 30 years. And
Probably
that's like
longer than that.
And it's been terrible, at least for hip hop. Because with hip hop in the early 90s, you had a balance. Yeah, you had your ratchet, you had your gangster rap, but then you had the more positive stuff. But I think for so long, especially from the late 90s throughout the 2000s and 2010s, it was just imbalance completely, you know. But I think now we're getting back to that, and I think it's because of the great equalizer that we call the internet. So you can find out who else is out there without having to wait for the radio to play it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that was question. What was question 3?
Number 3.
That was question 3, and you answered it beautifully. It doesn't have to. I don't think you can.
And go deeper.
I mean, you can, but I mean, at that point, it'd be rambling.
Yeah, exactly.
But we get to the point of the show where we play a game where if I win, I get to ask a bonus question.
Okay.
If you win, you get to ask me a bonus question.
Okay, let's go.
So the game is rock, paper, scissors. It's real simple. And it's not the best out of 3, none of that nonsense. It's rock, paper, scissors at one time. That's okay. So the stakes are high, right? You're not gonna get the best out of 3. No, you just 1, 2, shoot. If you win that, you ask me a question. If I win, I ask a question. Okay. Now I must warn you, I haven't lost. Actually, was it? No, I haven't lost. I don't think I ever lost.
Okay.
All right, so okay, Miss Crystal.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh, okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
We can consider this your first time losing.
Actually, no, I had this. I had the paper. I had the paper.
Don't cheat.
Yo, you know, I gotta stop gloating when it comes to that.
Yeah, because and it was perfect because God does all things
exactly,
well.
and it's happened to be you to do that.
I will definitely let's put this on record that Arts is no longer undefeated in his rock paper scissors shoot.
Oh my goodness! I hope I'm right because I don't think I've lost, and I've done a bunch of these episodes.
Well, now you can't say that.
All right. But I'm trying to wiggle out of it, but all right.
You can definitely ask me the bonus question. Anyway,
no, it's cool.
Because I don't have one for you.
You don't?
I don't.
I'll give you a moment to think of one.
Okay. Well, I do. Can I have a question? Like, can it be a 2-part question?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, you won, so.
Okay. Period. So, first part of this question is: did you gain a passion for podcasting?
I know where this is going.
From my show.
Well, I would say this. I wouldn't say that's the passion or where it came from, but I would say that being on your show, you know, those episodes, it made me more comfortable. Because before then, I would go on the show and I'd be like, what am I supposed to say? You know, it'd be things like that. Yeah. But being on the show with you, doing those segments, it made it a lot more comfortable.
And we picked on you a lot. Like,
we
picked at you because we wanted to pull it out. Like, I feel like you was trying to be so reserved, and we can tell that there's so much personality under there. Like,
well, there's definitely,
especially once you cut them locks off, you was acting up.
there's definitely a reason for that, and you know that'll be a different show.
Yeah, because one day I'm gonna come and ask you 3 questions.
Yeah, there's definitely a reason why I behave that way when it comes to being reserved.
Yeah, but we was definitely pulling it out. And the other half of that question is, and I just used 2 halves to make one whole question when I really had to. But what do you love about this?
About this?
Yes, about podcasting.
Well, the whole purpose of the show is to have like a archive, especially with people that I've met, people that I've had experiences with, friendships, things like that, work partnerships with, which is how we started off anyway, was this work partnership, and then all of a sudden it became friendship. I mean, at least I don't know if you can say
I agree. Because you know I'd have been like, us people's never friends. But I do agree.
You know what? I think you would say that too.
I would.
You
if it was the facts, I would.
So, but yeah, it's one of those things. Eventually, I'm gonna get into a space where I'll be talking with other professionals, but you just don't know. Like a lot of people don't document their life, or I'm not going to be following you around with a camera, but people just don't think about that. You'll be 45, 50, 60, 70 years old, and you have 15 years of your life that is only in your head.
Yeah.
Whereas you can have an episode on 3 questions and talk about some of your life.
Okay.
And then in 5 or so years from now, the video pops up on your feed. Oh, snap, I did do that. Let me see what I talked about. And then it starts, jogs your memory of certain stuff in your life. So that's pretty much what I'm doing now. Honestly, the idea wasn't even 3 questions at first.
I was about to ask.
It honestly came from me thinking about documenting like the older members in my family. Like my grandparents before they pass. Because a lot of them are still with us, but they're getting old. And they're starting to slow down. But this is where the idea was really born at. And I just started it. Started with people that I knew that would be more receptive. Like I started having episodes with dancers and stuff like that because I filmed them a lot. And they were all cool and they were the most comfortable on camera. Some people are not.
Yeah.
Some people get real clammy and stuff like that. But I knew them and I was like, okay, that's the best way to start. I can get meat, I'll get my sea legs out and they, make it easy for me to talk to them because they are used to being on camera. And that's why it's easy for me now to talk to you and some other people too that aren't a dancer. You're a singer and you do other things too. So
I'm not a dancer like the ones that you be recording though because I don't have that.
Yeah, a lot of them went on to do, a lot of them are on tour right now.
I know
artists,
that's right.
So they definitely, they weren't playing.
Be dancing.
Yeah, they dancing. But
I'm a liturgical worship dancer.
Well, I appreciate that question. And, this was actually pretty dope and really insightful into your new persona, which is what I figured it was going to be a little bit different before you came in, which is why I kind of I was a little bit more thoughtful about how I made the space.
Yes, it's beautiful in here.
So
thanks for having me. Thanks for being intentional.
Of course. After I had to hear about being intentional for like 30 minutes straight from you, which is good. We got to be reminded of that, though. We got to be reminded. But
30 minutes straight is crazy.
I don't know if it was 30 minutes. It might not have been 30 minutes. I don't know.
I don't know. It might have been.
But it was a great conversation, though, honestly.
Yeah.
And I really do appreciate you coming by and doing it in this very personal space of mine.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Shannon Crystal. And in that one, I will see y'all later. We out.
Toodles.